we're supposed to implement a robot that can move on the x-axis, and it might move by 30, and then it might move by 20, and then could turn and move the other direction. So over here we had a turn. And so the question is, what's the big idea here? Certainly the robot needs to know where it is, so it would want to keep its position. And if you have a position, and let's say the position is here at 30 right now, and now you want to move by another 20, then it's easy enough to see that what you need to do is you need to update and say the position is position plus the distance moved. And that's going to accumulate the position. Except, what's the deal with turning? So with turning, you have to know that now the distance needs to be subtracted. So over here, to go from the 50 to the 40, in this step here, we need to subtract the 10. So sometimes we add the 10, sometimes we subtract the 10. So we need to figure out how to deal with that. So really here, this thing should either be a plus or minus, and the way to do that is to remember that. So if we have a direction variable that's plus or minus 1, then we're going to be making some headway. Then instead of computing position plus distance, we compute position plus distance times direction. How do we flip the direction? Well, when the robot turns, it either turns from going right to left or from going left to right. Either way, that multiplies the direction by minus 1. And that's what I have here in the turn method. I just say direction equals minus direction. You might say direction equals direction times minus 1. That's the same thing. So let's go to see how we did that in the move method here. So I didn't call my thing position, I called it x, but it's the same idea. The name of the instance variable doesn't really matter as long as you use it consistently. So to update x, I say you go x plus distance, except it might be x minus distance, and that's where times the direction comes in. Now the final task was to total up the distance traveled. So in this example here, we wanted to first have 30, and then 30 plus 20, that's 50, and then 30 plus 10, so the sign shouldn't matter, that's 60. So we're simply forming a total of all of the inputs that came in through the move method. Forming a total is something that happens all the time. You've seen this, for example, in the bank account, and so you should, by this time, kind of have a pattern in mind for doing that. So when we want to form a total for something, we need to have a variable that stores that total. That's the one that I call here distance traveled. I initialize that in the constructor with 0. And whenever a new value comes along, that's here the distance that I want to travel anew, then I update the distance traveled so that it remembers the old plus the new. And finally, I need to have a method that reports the total. So have a look in the textbook about the bank account and deposit and get balance, and you'll notice that deposit is exactly like move, it increments the total, and get balance is exactly like this accessor that returns the current total. So it's the same pattern of changing, and it's a good idea to start thinking in terms of these patterns that when you design new classes, which is of course something you'll do all the time.